everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Experience Maker Live. I can't believe it. It is episode 95. Wow, we've been doing this for a long time. I started this and thought maybe I'd do it for a few weeks, but I continue to find amazing guests, and as long as I continue to do that, I'm going to continue to bring this show live every week. I am Dan Gingiss, the Experience Maker. I teach audiences, leaders, and employees how to create remarkable experiences that their customers can't wait to share. Because when we create experiences for people, we turn them into our best salespeople and our best marketers. And after all, doesn't every company want to be able to say that about their customers, their clients, that they're the best source of new customers because they're talking about us? So one guy that has figured this out in an industry that in 94 episodes we have not covered yet, the real estate industry. I'm super excited to introduce you to the author of Profit First for Real Estate Investing. He is a real estate investor himself and also a founder of a company called Simple CFO. Welcome to the show, David Richter. How are you, sir?
Great, Dan. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here. I've been excited to talk with you because this is an industry that I don't know a whole lot about. And one of the things I love about this show is I get to learn something too, because I get to just surround myself with smart people. And so hopefully I will ask intelligent enough questions to get the good stuff out of you, but really interested in what you have to say. Why don't we just start with having you introduce yourself? And as we were talking before we went on, you're sort of in two different businesses. So tell us about both of them.
Sure. So I read a book a while ago in college that a friend gave to me, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that taught me that I don't need to just, go to 9-to-5 job. And there's other ways of thinking and thinking about money and thinking about providing value. And so that really got it kicked off in my head of like where, there's something different I can do. So that's when I started reading real estate books and learning about buying real estate to hold it or buying real estate to sell it and as an investment. So that's kind of what got me kickstarted on the real estate investing journey. Had a lot of great mentors, a lot of great experiences during that time for the last 10 years. And then, I've bought and sold a lot of different properties, have held on to properties as well too, and bought them as rentals. But then also during that time, one of the big things I'm big on is learning from other people and providing value. And one of the things was I worked with a real estate investing company because I wanted to learn how to do it, how to run a small business, how the ins and outs of it. And that gave me a lot of experience of like what to do, what not to do. There's a lot of good stuff there. And then it also showed me the power because I sat in a lot of different, roles in that company, a lot of different seats, and from acquiring properties to selling the properties to renting them out to doing a lot of different stuff like that. And one of the seats I sat in during that time was the finance seat and looking at what do all these numbers mean, and getting a clear overview of the business finances. Because I was like most other people where I was just a hard worker. I knew what I wanted to do. I'd read good books but I had never gotten any formal training on accounting or the number side of things. But that was definitely a crash course because I sat down for like a year, like with the CPA and like, just teach me, what do these numbers mean? So that was really eye-opening to me as well, because there's a lot of business owners, including the business I was in at that time, where make a lot of money, but you don't really keep a lot of it. It's like, why are we doing this? Why are we just spinning our wheels here every single month, basically living deal to deal or month to month, paycheck to paycheck? And as a business overall, once I dove into the numbers, and I'm like, I bet you there's a lot of other businesses like this. So that's where I got the idea to start Simple CFO, which is a fractional CFO company to help people just know where their numbers are, help them know, where they can make the changes in order to actually not live in the rat race anymore, so living deal to deal or living paycheck to paycheck. So that was the kind of the different avenues I took. Was I saw a need where I was in the real estate investing world and created that company to kind of bridge that gap and help people from the real estate investing side.
That's awesome. That's such a great story. Thank you for sharing that. Hey, thanks for the comments that are coming in as well. We got Nate Brown in the house, Mr. CX himself. Great job, David. He says, it looks like we have Nicholas Eisler on the line as well. Great to see you guys. Thanks for being here. And certainly feel free to ask questions of both me and David. So David, as you were explaining this, the thing that was going through my head was CFO, finance. What in the heck does this have to do with customer experience? Now, I have a keynote that I do that actually, it started off as sort of my second keynote, but it's become a lot more popular. It's titled Why Every Employee is in the Customer Experience Business. And I actually go through the different areas of the company and talk about why everybody, even if they're not customer facing directly, is really in the CX business. So before I tell you my thoughts on it, I'd love to hear from you on how do you feel the CFO, what role does the CFO play in customer experience?
So I'm a big believer of what you just said, that every single role in the business is customer experience, because you said the number one person, that's the salesperson, is the client that gets that experience from you. Your second best is every other person that anyone would ever interact with on your team, and how they bring that experience to them, and how it is the overall experience of what you want your company to be. That's why it's very important you have the culture, you have the values, that they're all living them, that they're actually living them out. So a CFO on the team should be a part of that as well too. They should be the ones there showing you what's working and bringing great experience of like, hey, this is what's working. We should keep doing more of this, or funding more of this, or like being able to see that. And on the flip side too, what's not working? What do we need to change? And how can we make our lives better? So that's where a CFO, I feel like, is, if I had to give like an analogy, it's like almost at the doctor, like going to a hospital. Yeah, the bookkeeper is more like the transactions day to day. She's, they're the nurse. They're the ones like making sure you're good and up to date, which is very important in the experience. You got to at least have the numbers. CPA is more like, they're doing the taxes. They're the specialists. They're the ones going in there for one thing and making sure that the IRS is taken care of and your behind doesn't go to jail. So that's what their role is. And then the CFO, I feel like, is like the business strategist or the doctor. Like, let's make sure your overall health is good, because, it's not going to be a very good experience if you're always laid up or sick, or like living deal to deal, paycheck to paycheck, month to month, as a human being or a business owner or whoever. So that's where I feel like the CFO comes in and says, okay, where are we right now? How can we make this better? Or what's not working, so that way we could turn it around? Or what do we need to cut off? What do we need to add to? And how can we actually, and how can we officially accomplish why we started a business, or why we want to even achieve a certain aspect of this business, and making sure that you actually have the headings to get there. So I think they play a vital role, and especially the owner feeling like, hey, I'm glad I started this business and want to keep it going. So I think it's good for the end user client, but it's also good for the sake of the entrepreneur, the business owner as well.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think when you get to the why did we start this business, certainly there's always an aspect of, well, I want to make money, but in order to make money, I have to serve customers. Yeah. And I always like to say, if you think like a finance person, you think about assets and liabilities, right? Your number one asset, no matter what business you're in, is your customers. Because if you don't have them, you don't have a business. I think employees are probably right behind there. Yeah. But if you don't have customers, you don't have a business. So let me tell you a fictional story that is not exactly fictional, but we'll just hide the names of the guilty. So one day, a CFO at a major airline said, hey, we're not making enough money, and our shareholders want us to make more money. So I got a great idea. We're going to start charging people to check their bags. Now, somebody came up to them and said, well, why would we do that? They've always been able to check their bags for free. And the CFO says, yeah, but we can make billions and billions of dollars doing this. And next thing we know, we have checked bag fees. And every other airline says, wow, that was a great idea. We're going to do that too. Now, to me, well, before I have anything, what do you think of my fictional story and the role that the CFO plays there, and maybe what they might be able to do differently?
Well, yeah, I think look at Southwest, who doesn't have the check bag fees, so it's like you can see the difference between the ones who are customer focused and the ones that aren't, and that I think is the summation there of what are you really going after? Is it after getting the client to say, wow, that was a great experience, and they have as little hiccups as possible? I mean, if you're putting the road barriers there yourself, that's a pretty, that's not the best idea in order to keep the customer coming back. But that's also at the same time too, okay, what is the overall plan here? We have to make sure, yes, we're making money, but that the customer feels taken care of. And they're, like you said, they're the ones that are out there preaching it as well too. So I love that story, because it's like, just totally goes against if your end user experience is what you're really after, and those clients, that's what you're really wanting to help and bring value to, then those types of things you're going to think about, and then you're going to be like, no, let's focus on the experience more, and maybe we could charge more, upfront because they're willing to pay more because of that or whatnot, because we provide an actual experience on this airline versus just like, let's nickel and dime you for every single cent that's out there in order to make more money, even though we might lose a huge portion of our customer base because of that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Nate says he's often thought of the CFO and the HR executive as two of the most undertapped CX resources inside the company. I think that's true. And Ryan Baker, hey, Ryan, and now we have, let's increase it a little bit more, and then let's charge more to be in a certain area of the plane. Exactly. In fact, what I've noticed has happened is, also a couple of years ago, the airlines thought, okay, now we're going to get really smart. We're going to offer a no frills discounted ticket so that we can go advertise lower prices across the board. And what I've noticed is recently those have gone away. And I think the reason they did is that experience was essentially tricking the customer, right? We're going to give you a really low rate, but when you get to the airport, we're going to charge you extra for your bags. Even a carry-on bag, we're going to charge you extra for. And you're not going to get this and you're not going to get that. And so, yeah, you're paying just a little bit of money, but you're basically getting hauled into a cattle car versus flying respectfully respectably in an airplane. And so to me, that was an attempt that failed because they saw the customer response to it. I think that the airline industry obviously is an easy one to pick on, but let's bring it back to sort of CFOs in particular and finance people. To me, there's some I like to point out really simple things, right? And so to me, I look at a finance guy and I look at, maybe this comes from having been in the credit card industry for so long, but I look at something as simple as what forms of payment do we accept from our customers? And I noticed recently, this was pre-COVID, so maybe not that recently, but I noticed two restaurants in downtown Chicago. One of them had gone to all cash, no cards, and one of them had gone to all cards and no cash. And I thought that was pretty interesting, right? Because if you think about who that affects and the types of customers and how that might be useful for some customers and how that might be a pain in the neck or might actually turn away certain customers, it seems to me like those are the kinds of decisions that if we're in the right spot mentally as a CFO or as a finance executive, we're trying to make these business decisions while wearing the customer hat. And we're saying, okay, if we do something right by the customer, we can make money doing it, as you said. If we're just looking at trying to make money and the customer's not part of the equation, that's where we often, good ideas may end up on the cutting room floor. Can you talk a little bit about that dynamic of sort of how do you decide things, even as something as simple as, and I always joked with people when I was at Discover, we would go talk to a merchant that didn't accept Discover card. And we'd be like, why would you want to stand in the way of your customer wanting to pay you? Like, if they want to come in here with a bag of pennies, you should be like, bring it on, right? A personal check, whatever it is. Why would you get in the way of people paying you? Tell me what your thoughts are.
Yeah, we work with a lot of people that are probably the $1 million to $10 million range in small real estate investing businesses. And a lot of those businesses have rentals and tenants. And it's like, make it as easy as possible for the tenant to pay you. Can you put them on auto pay? Can you give them a special incentive? How can you make it so yeah, I definitely resonate with this because it is one of those things where you're thinking, okay, if you can, and that's the other thing too, especially in the real estate industry, is if you say no cash, you are separating off a certain type of person that you don't want in the rental properties. Then it's either going to be, the people that just pay cash for everything, or it could be, a couple that only uses cash because they've done it for so long or whatnot. So it's like you could be separating off some sections of that, that you don't want or that you do want. So that's where you have to be careful too, is saying, who am I alienating by doing this? But then that's the flip side too. It's who do I want to alienate as well too? Like if I just go to all, and what headaches do I want to alleviate? So that could be, okay, I want to take just automatic payments, or I just want to do online payments, or have a portal on my website, or whatever it is for payment to make it as easy as possible. But that's the only way I'm going to accept it. because especially in the rental industry, you have to be so super careful if you're taking cash payments from people, because you have to record that, give them a receipt. It's like it creates a whole lot more headache as well too. So it's like, do you want that? What makes the business efficient? Because if you're efficient, you can spend more time on the customer experience process too. That's also another thing to think about, is like, if I can be more efficient with what I'm doing and not alienate the right people and give them a great experience, then I've kind of got that, triune there of like, what I really am looking for is giving them a good experience. I'm increasing my efficiency, and I'm able to focus on what really matters, like for the business as well too. So we see that a lot in the real estate industry.
So let's talk a little bit more about real estate. Just off the top of my head, I'm thinking places where the customer experience would come into play would be showing a property, for example, or handling issues or concerns from tenants. There are, obviously, if you're just an investor and you're buying and flipping or whatever, maybe you're not dealing with customers so much. But it sounds to me like a lot of both your personal investments and with the folks you work with, there's a customer component to it. Can you talk about that and sort of what you found as best practices?
There's several different customers in the real estate world. If you're buying directly from a seller, because that's where most real estate investors buy, is from sellers who can't sell retail because the house was inherited. They don't want to mess with it. It's a total gut job, and they have no idea what to do with it. So that's where one customer is that seller, taking care of them, making sure you're actually solving a problem for them, not taking advantage of them, but actually solving that problem. Then another customer is the end buyer, because some people sell retail, or some people turn around and flip it to, the actual fix and flipper, or the people you see on HGTV. So making sure you take care of those customers as well too, is like, who is that end buyer? Because in the real estate investing industry, you could have the same buyer. It's not just all retail sales. It's also you're selling to other investors and making them, making sure that they're getting the good returns. Because if you're selling a rental property, then like to an actual investor, which one of those strategies is called turnkey, where you literally fix up the property, put a renter in there and a tenant in there, and then you sell it to an investor, like a passive investor who just wants the cash flow from that rental. So then that's another turnkey buyer. Could be someone where you get repeat customers and repeat business from, and you have to take care of them very well, meaning there's good management in place for that tenant, meaning there's good processes in place to tell them if something's gone wrong, to get them their money on time, like when the tenant pays. So there's a lot of different areas of customer service. Then also, if you just own rentals and you have tenants, they're your customers too. That's why you need to not be one of those landlords that don't fix up the properties. They're, Slane is like a slumlord, like that doesn't ever fix anything up, that just has rats everywhere and whatnot. No, if you take care of the property and you screen for the right tenant, then they'll take care of you too. That means if you're taking care of them and thinking about not just how much money can I squeeze out, but like, how can I make this a good experience for that tenant too? When I've seen investors do that and have that mindset going into it, guess what? They have not nearly as many problems as the other investors that they're just like, I just need to go in there and get the cheapest house and put the cheapest stuff in there. And then guess what? It's all done. And okay, hopefully we're making some money here. And it's like, okay, well, you're not going to get also the best person for that property as well too, because they're going to see how you treat it. And they're like, okay, why should I treat this any better, than what you're doing? So there's a lot of different customers in there. And it is, if you're focused on that, you'll have repeat people, like the tenants recommending to other people, like, hey, you should look to see what the properties they have available. They've taken care of me. And it can go a very long way. Just like, I love this whole podcast, just making people's experiences better across the board. And there's a lot of different areas in real estate to make that happen.
Yeah, great examples. And I love the idea of having multiple customers. I think one I might add would be that I would imagine tenants also are probably more forgiving when something goes wrong, if they've had a good experience with you, if you've helped them out in the past. So, nobody wants anything to go wrong with their place, but stuff happens. And often I always teach clients, it's how you react at that moment that is going to make the difference. And I think if you've built up this goodwill with a tenant, then when something does inevitably happen, you've got some trust, you've got some willingness to kind of work with you versus, say, immediately jumping to angry and, yelling and screaming and posting on social media and all this other stuff. So
you're always making. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, you're always making emotional deposits with people all across the board. Your
Yeah,
tenants,
right.
your spouse, the people you work with, your, like clients, people above you, people beside you. You're always making those emotional deposits. So that's where the experience comes into play. That experience is your cushion when things go wrong, because things will go wrong. So yeah, I love that. When I heard that several years ago, it's like you're always making those emotional deposits. Sometimes you have to make a withdrawal. Sometimes you're going to have to set a boundary, and it's going to hurt someone the wrong, it's going to rub them the wrong way, but it's what the right thing for you. So
Yeah.
that's making those emotional deposits.
Yeah, great point. Great point. My buddy Chris Strub, who is watching, says being good to people always comes around, whether they're clients, customers, or anyone. I definitely agree with you there. And Chris made a comment earlier. David, I assume you're going to know what this means. I have no idea. He says, "Ooh, nice. David's got a Room Rater 1010 background." What does this mean? Do you have any idea?
Unless he's talking about Airbnb, I don't know that website specifically, but it might be like an Airbnb score or something like that, or I'm not sure if
Got
I've
you.
never
All right.
heard of
Well,
Room
Chris,
Rater
maybe
before.
you can clarify for us. But congratulations on your Room Rater 1010
Thank you.
background, whatever that means. I thought he was talking
Awards
about.
left and right.
I thought he was talking about your virtual or your actual background back there, and so I got to thinking, as a thank
Okay.
you for being on the show, I'm going to have to send you a copy of the Experience Maker book so you can add it to your shelf.
Yeah, no
back
kidding.
there.
I need that for sure.
But he must have been talking about something else. Ryan has a question for you, David. How would you say the pandemic has changed the way businesses think about their money? What is the number one issue individuals come to you for help? Great question. Thank you, Ryan, as always.
So when the pandemic first started, no one in real estate knew if it was going to be another 2008 or 9, or if this was going to, or what's happened here, where the market has just really taken off in a lot of different places. So at that first, it was all scarcity of like, hey, we got to shut things down. There was a lot of people that came, like that were just thinking, I've got to prepare. And of course, the worst time to prepare is when something is inevitably going to happen. So, but that did put a lot of business owners, and especially the real estate investors we were working with, in the mindset of, I've got to prepare myself for whatever's coming down the pipeline. We don't know if it's a pandemic. We don't know if it's another global crisis. We don't know if it's another, like 2008 or 9 and a financial crisis, or the housing market bubble pops again, or whatever it might be. So I think it put a lot of people in that frame of mind, because it's so easy to make money when the hay is shining, when the sun is shining, and making hay all day long. But then when it gets dark, it's like, what's really happening? So it made a lot of business owners that we work with think about that, and really accept the messaging we're getting out there of, stop living day to day in the rat race, don't live month to month. And also at the same time, to get out of that, here's a system how to get out of that. So that way, if something does happen in the future, you got a little buffer for yourself, just like we were talking about the emotional deposits. Same thing with your business. You need to make actual deposits to make sure that you have a cushion for yourself if something happens in your life or in your business. So that's where a lot of people come to us, because they're like, hey, I want to make sure that no matter what happens in the future, we're set, we're secure, we're safe. We have some things in place, some guardrails in place, so that way we can at any time be okay. Because a lot of people don't realize it's not just a global pandemic, or it could not just be a financial meltdown. Something personal could happen. What if you get sick, a relative gets sick, or whatever it might be? It's like, you got to make sure that you're taking care of, if like if it's a personal incident or if it's a global incident.
I'd imagine also people are probably nervous about interest rates at this point, given that we pretty much all know they're going up later this year and into next year. I assume that's something that is affecting business.
It's affecting business for sure. For people who just buy and sell, or buy and hold, for sure. That's why I love real estate. There's great things called like subject to, or like where you buy an existing mortgage from someone subject to that mortgage that's already in place at a low interest rate. So those people are like, you know what, bring on the hikes. I'm just going to go out and purchase more from people right now, and solve the problems for those people. But then, yes, the people that are buying and holding, they see those rates climbing, and it affects the numbers. It affects the numbers across the board of how much they can put down, how much they can put into the properties, before then it doesn't make it worth it. So yes, definitely have a lot of people looking at the interest rates as they're rising for real estate, but also have a lot of people that we're working with too, that there's a lot of creative stuff that you can do in the real estate investing side.
For sure. We're coming up on time, but I have a couple more comments for you. First of all, Chris did get back to us. Room Raider is a Twitter account that rates people's Zoom backgrounds, and you got a 10 out of 10. So congratulations. Chris, what's going to happen when he puts the Experience Maker back there on his shelf? I don't know. He's gonna break Room Raider. It's going to be fantastic. Yeah. And also, we have Melissa Rayner in the house. Hello, Melissa. She's feeling the comment about staying calm in a difficult moment. How you react in a moment when things go wrong is key. Pausing and getting out of the panicked mindset before responding with fear or anger will definitely improve your customer relationship. Wouldn't it be great if everyone did this? Yes, it would be amazing if everybody would do this. It's incredible how much is going on. And this is what I'm seeing that makes me fearful in the pandemic is just all of the bad behavior out there from both customers and companies. And it's got to stop. We got to be nicer to each other and be more understanding. Everybody has had a difficult 2 years. I try to teach this to my teenager too, right? You know, it's not just high school that's been messed up. Everybody's had a difficult 2 years, and it'd be great if we could all recognize that. So thank you for the comment, Melissa. David, how do people get a hold of you or connect with you if they're interested in learning more from you?
SimpleCFOsolutions.com. That is the website where it's a one-stop shop. We've got a podcast on there. We've got of that book, The Profit First for Real Estate Investing, how to work with us, how to connect with me as well too. So SimpleCFOsolutions.com. That's the one place to go.
SimpleCFOsolutions.com. I'm going to throw it up there for people to write down and connect with you, and definitely reach out to David on LinkedIn as well. I believe that's where I connected with you. Thank you so much for being here. This has been really interesting. And as I said when we started, I don't know a ton about the real estate industry, but I feel like I'm a lot smarter now. And I think we've gotten some great insights on, frankly, how we can take experience type things in real estate and apply it to almost any business. So especially the big takeaway that's swimming in my head is this idea of we all have multiple customers, and we have to think about that. You know, our employees might be customers, our vendors might be customers, our end users might be customers. We might be selling in a B2B to C space where, you know, we've got a customer in between us and the end customer. So there's a lot of people out there that we have to serve, and they're all looking for a great experience. So thank you for sharing your wisdom. Really appreciate you. And we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Dan.
And thank you also for being here today. Thanks to everybody who commented. I really appreciate it. Always great when we have people commenting. It makes it more fun, and I love the engagement. So thank you so much for that. I want to, my system here has changed a little bit, so I can't find things anymore. But I want to talk about next week's episode because we have a special episode. It's going to be running a half an hour later than normal. And that is because we have a special crossover episode. You know, I've been watching all of the Chicago franchise shows, PD and Med and Fire, and I love when they have crossover episodes. So we're doing that next week. I'm doing that with Jack Hubbard, and Jack is the chairman and CXO of St. Meyer and Hubbard. He is all about helping people in the banking industry. He's also the host of Jack Rants Live, and I'm going to be a guest on Jack Rants Live at this time next week at noon Eastern, and then we're going to immediately shift over to the Experience Maker Show, where I'm going to have Jack as a guest here. It's going to be a half an hour later, so 12:30 p.m. Eastern. I hope you will join us. It should be really interesting to have a crossover episode. Hey, thanks so much for joining us. Really, really appreciate it. We'll see you next week on the Experience Maker Show. I'm Dan Gingiss, the Experience Maker. Have a great weekend.